Perfect. Suzie, I'm super excited to have you here today. We are all are very excited to have you here today. I am especially excited because Laura and I were talking about this, and we actually dove in a little bit. I went into my LinkedIn. I said, I talked to Suzie way back in the day because I was so interested in her brand, and I dropped the ball on that. But back on April 17, 2017, I reached out to you because I thought you were going to be huge, and I was excited to be part of that brand. I dropped the ball on not trying to get in front of you a lot more so I could make an investment. But regardless, Suzie, it's been a pleasure watching and learning through your journey. I think as an 11-time Ironman competitor, you have the drive, the focus, and what it takes to be an entrepreneur. And I'm going to say that when you have and you bring to the game that level of competitiveness, there's no way of taking you off the eye of where you're going. So it's phenomenal. And I think that, you know, taking your 30 years of CPG experience and stepping out into the world and saying, I'm going to create something that's great. I see that there's a void. And by all means, your products are phenomenal. And of course, the fact that you took all of that learning from Procter & Gamble, Pepsi, Kraft, Zag, Weight Watchers, all of that drove it into creating a fantastic brand that you have today. And I'm excited to hear, obviously, your talk. But not only am I excited and everybody's happy for where you've come from and what you've done, but the world's also given you some awards because of all of the great things you've done. And the latest one being the RBC Women of Influence Award. So congratulations to that. And again, we're so excited to have you here today. And I turn the floor over to you. But again, fantastic job on what you've done in the CPG world and what you've done with your business.
Well, thank you, Jeffrey. That's a very nice introduction. And indeed, in April 2017, our share price was 10 cents. So might have been good to connect back then. It was
I should have pushed harder.
We had a pretty wild ride for the audience. I'll just chat on kind of three quick themes, a quick summary of the wild ride that we've had, and then the impact of COVID. And then I just want to do some quick points on kind of the three key messages. The first one is the positioning, product, pricing. The second one is the role of the CEO as both the brand champion and being scrappy. And then the third one is talk a little bit about kind of the where we are now with COVID and then the future, if that's okay. And I'll pause.
That's perfect.
For questions.
And I'll jump in and ask you some questions near the end. So you're good to go. Thank you.
So we have like maybe 10 minutes and then 10 more minutes of questions, something like that.
That works perfect.
Okay, so I'll go kind of pretty quick. So Jeffrey summarized my story, but it essentially started at age 45. My health had taken, even though I'd done 11 Ironmans, I had been following a low-fat diet for 40 years. We've all been misled for 40 years. We need fat, our brains need fat, our bodies need fat. And in the hope of kind of losing those last 10 pounds or running a little bit faster, biking faster, I was always trying to manage the fats I ate. And that was really bad. So I got to my mid 40s. I had a VP of marketing job for 10, 15 years, and my health crashed. I had high blood pressure. I had IBS. I was bloated all the time and miserable, and I didn't know what was driving kind of feeling so miserable in the GI. And then I read the book Big Fat Surprise by Nina Teicholz. She spent 9 years as an investigative journalist, and she discovered that we all been duped with that one study by Mr. Ansel Keys in the 60s that said that, eating saturated fats and cholesterol creates cholesterol that then drives cardiovascular disease. Wrong. That's all been debunked in the late 90s and early 2000 with multiple mega studies, including a big Harvard deep review. And now we kind of have hundreds of clinicals looking at the health benefits of a ketogenic diet, because now it's gone from way beyond just eating good fats, but now the world is looking at sure, there's weight loss benefits of losing weight when you eat low carb or keto, but then there's all the medical benefits of eliminating sugar and carbs from your diet with the big three metabolic diseases. So Alzheimer's, which is really type 3 diabetes, and then diabetes and cancer. So like the world has just shifted full 180 from the 40 years where we thought we were doing the good thing. So I read the book, was hitting 50, took my life savings, and then said, I'll start with 2 SKUs in 10 stores or 50 stores in Canada and Ontario, and in natural, and give it a shot. So we quickly went from 2017 launched, had 4 months at 40,000 per month. And then boom, 8 months later, we were $1 million per month. And then 12 months later, we were 7 million per month. So the brand literally took off from 150,000 in our first fiscal year to 8 million to 47 million. And that is a hyper growth company. It has its challenges when you're growing that fast. You don't have the luxury of time. So you can't build a natural brand like many have done, built incredibly beautiful and strong brands, but over 5 or 10 years between when you sell in the health food stores and you expand to the Costco and Walmarts and have North American distribution. We did it in 24 or 26 months. And that is certainly taxing in itself and requires certain type of people and certain skill set, and being scrappy. And then COVID hit. So we were kind of like a baby, infant, newborn brand. We were kind of month 1, January 2020, and then February 2020, we were 16,000 doors in the US. And then boom, COVID kind of comes along. Most food brands went through the roof, and all CPG food stock went through the roof. And then the bar category, however, declined about 40%, a little bit more in the health channel, a little bit less in the grocery channel. But on-the-go bars got decimated. Keto took a big hit. Number 3 is discovery, which is the gift to all founders in natural, is the gift of discovery. Madame Consumer goes to the shelf and she picks this, and what about this? What about that? Forget discovery. People had masks and they were in and out and not really interested in kind of discovering new brands. So it's been a really tough go for all startups, for all smaller brands. Our US business has been hit with these big headwinds. Our Canadian business was, a year older and very robust at tens of millions of dollars already. So we didn't get hit as much. So certainly went from hyper growth to humbled with some headwinds. So certainly kind of the full spectrum in terms of the leadership challenges. So that's kind of like the story in summary. And I'll just take a breath if there's a few questions, and then I'll kind of go to my 3 themes.
Suzie, fire away on the 3 themes, and then I'll bring up after some questions.
Perfect. So the point number 1 is when you start a company or you want to start a company, the most important thing to plan out is positioning, product, price, value. It's kind of the triple Ps. You learn in business school. It's so important. Spend most of your time optimizing your positioning. You can do that via concept testing. You can just DM me on the side to get. I think I'll do a whole tutorial on concepts and concept optimization and testing, because even if you don't have a lot of money and not a lot of skill, you should still optimize your concept. That becomes your point of difference. That becomes your packaging. That becomes your ads. That becomes your social campaign. That becomes the culture and the feel of the brand inside the company and outside the company. Optimize that as much as you can. Make sure that your product delivers on the promise of your brand positioning, which is a promise to the consumer. And then make sure that the price value to the consumer is right enough so that your positioning and your product and your price value all work together. And you can be premium, you can be discount, you can be parity to competitors. Those 3 Ps have to work together. Once that is as good as you think it can get, and you meet certain norms to know that you're going to sell a little bit, then you go into the execution and you launch and market, and then you spend money. You spend money to get on the shelf. You spend money to talk to the consumers, especially as per the previous session we just heard. But that's the quote easy part. The hard part is to make sure you have a winning brand positioning and product to bring to the market. So spend most of your time there. And then once you do hit the market, do fast adapt, fast adapt, fast adapt. We change our packaging 4 times. We've evolved our formulas 3 or 4 times, and we are continuing to optimize. And I'll talk about that in my third point. So that's the difference of the startup. So it brings me to the second theme of being scrappy. The big difference between my 20 years in the larger CPGs, and then I worked in 2 hyper growths before this company, is scrappy is kind of the main way to think about it. You kind of have to balance, making good sound decisions with 10-20% of the information, fast enough decisions. We after 6 weeks in the market on October 16th, I heard from one of the stores downtown that we were the number 1 and 2 selling bars. Boom, that night, it was employee of 1. That night I went to my little mini board and I said, we're launching 2 more bars, which is $200,000 of the, we'd only raised 400,000 plus my savings. So boom, make that decision. January 15, we were making the 2 new bars, and having 4 bars in January starting to roll out on shelves is what catapulted us to $1 million a month. So, and then boom, two more plant-based ones in August. And then we did a whole bunch of things. We got certified, like you kind of have to snap out of the maybe kind of slower, more prudent CPG, larger companies, to being comfortable making quick enough decisions based on what you know. And as a founder, you should be standing in stores, standing in front of consumers at demos, and standing in consumer shows. And I think I've done over 1,000 of those just in my first 3 years. COVID's put a dent in that. So that's point number 2. And then point number 3 is, in terms of the future, COVID has kind of created unprecedented challenges and new dynamics. We sampled 1.3 million mouths in 2019, and then COVID hits, right? Like it just blows a big hole in kind of everything, discovery keto on the go in our awareness and trial tactics. So we all have to react. If you're a younger brand, you're probably worried about cash flow. We were fortunate enough to raise enough cash at the beginning of COVID, but we still had to be really careful. So now that we're hopefully kind of coming out enough, I won't jinx the wave 4 conversation. It's all about innovation. So we have a pipeline of about 10 different products, each with several SKUs in our pipeline. And we're in the very exciting phase of product launch stage gate to kind of make sense of what will kind of move forward and launch first and second and third and all that kind of good stuff. So don't take your foot off the gas of innovation now that we're kind of back in a world that's opening up. So those might be my 3 tips.
Suzie, that's fantastic. And thank you very much for sharing all of that. I'm going to first start by saying that when it came to the book that you read and defining and sharing that you realized that eating this no-fat diet was BS, I too came to the same resolution to that. The Big Fat Surprise was a fantastic book and opened up my eyes too. And I lived the same lifestyle that you did. And I realized that you needed the fats and that this was just some terrible marketing that got played on this, and I've read so many things around this entire space. So I'm glad that you tackled the problem and tackled it from the other side by reintroducing, which I'm going to go is on the name with good fats, and kudos to you for that. So brilliant, just absolutely brilliant. Now, taking that and all the experiences you have, one thing that really resonates with me and everything that you shared was that one, that you're a very driven go-getter, and you haven't changed any of that in your demeanor, you've carried that through the entire brand build, is that you're in the thick of it all the time. So you're innovating, you're diving into the brand. And what I love about that is that you're able to see where the market's trending. You're able to see where the problems are going to come. And I really want to emphasize this, because I think sometimes when we start to make it big, and as you have grown significantly, sometimes you take your eye off the ball, even though your foot's still on the gas. You start to shift the way you focus and the way you build your brand and your business. And that's one thing that your 3 points share that you didn't do. You didn't become the executive. You still became the entrepreneur that wanted to make sure that you were innovating, cost cutting, managing your brand and your business and every touch point. And I love that because I think that speaks to you as a person, speaks to your 11 Ironmans, because it shows that your determination to success is key. So can you talk a little bit more about how you look at your business today, pre-COVID, and how you dove in and said, you know what, we can clean this up. We can change this. We can fix this. We can cut the cost here, increase this, bring a better taste pattern for our customers, and then open this up, have more brands, generate more revenue. But bottom line, we need to keep innovating. How do you build that into your community or into your business?
Yeah, well, for sure. It's been a massive, big step change. And the first piece of advice to founders is to exactly do what you said and what I did. The first 2 years, I answered every single DM on all 3 platforms. Now I just answer LinkedIn. And I was standing in front of consumers for 4 days at the Boston Marathon and 100, like literally more than 1,000 touch points. And I think all founders that I'm connected with on LinkedIn seem to all do that. And that is really critical. You know, when I was in CPG, my connection with consumers was either my friends or family or behind a one-way mirror at focus groups. So you want to kind of be in the brand because like that's how you kind of are really tuned in. The world is like crazy now and kind of totally changed with COVID. But I think what we had to do, and we finished the year at 47 million. We had a couple $7 million months. So we had hired at one point, we were looking at 40 people, and then we had growth plans to continue growing the following year. So we had to right size a couple of times. We raised money. We had our largest raise ever in a Series A in January, or closed it in May 2020. So that kind of gave us some breathing room. We pulled back on people, and we've done a couple of rounds. So we're a lean little team of 14 now. We pulled back on all marketing. We kind of kept some customer marketing, some investment in mostly in the US with Whole Foods and Sprouts and Walmart and Kroger, but we really pulled everything back. And then we pulled back a little bit of trade, not as much as the big brands. And in retrospect, we probably could have pulled back a little bit more because the payout is just not there. Ads for feature ads don't work anymore. They got canceled. They don't work. And so, we kind of learned our way. But we've been gearing up for the last 4 months in particular to say, look, the world will reopen. Innovate or die is another theme of another speaking occasion or presentation I could do for the group. And it was really key to kind of make sure that we come out strong with both supporting our brands. We're doing a TV tests in LA starting in October. We're doing 4 to 8 weeks of a marketing heavy up in LA because we have a Costco test there right now. So we're gonna lean in and put some mega fuel and see how our digital and TV drives POS. We've always had success in the past, and that will drive our marketing plans for Q1, Q2, and then the innovation machine to come behind that fuel.
I love it. That's awesome. And maybe my last question for you is going to be, what does the future look like for you guys today? Add some innovation on what are the things that you're looking to solve as you move forward. And I'm assuming that based on all the things I've learned over the years about what you guys do, you're really heavily focused on the brand and really pushing that and resonating that brand with your consumer. So what does that look like to you in the next 2 to 3 years?
Yeah, the mission of the brand from 2016 to today hasn't changed. It's a mission to change how we eat, and do that by kind of having a billboard and a beacon brand of screaming love good fats and making it okay to eat good fats and cut sugar and carbs. So that hasn't changed. The brand basics of building a brand, category by category, getting to scale, and then expanding to adjacent categories that the consumer will embrace, have successful innovation, play again and again and again is pretty much the brand model. And so we're kind of, looking forward to 2022 being a year where we can roll out some exciting innovation.
I love it. One last thing, what's a trend and a tactic that you see for this year that's going to be really pushing your brand and your business, or the category, or globally?
The trend of low sugar is insane. So we kind of had keto just go crazy in 18 and 19, and then it softened up a little bit, and now it's going to come back with all the medical studies coming out. But low sugar has finally, even though it started in 2012, I think with Katie Couric's movie, it's finally here. And there's still a lot of misinformation on only 8 grams of sugar per portion. That's crazy. That's way too much, right? But at least we're starting the conversation. 1 to 2 grams of sugar, or 0 is even better. Aim for 0. But the low sugar trend is big. And I think, the e-commerce shoppers, the Instacarts of the world is dramatically changing the life experiences from the shopper to the retail stores. And we all have to, adapt to that, because that's a big part of the consumers that are going there, including myself.
I love it. And from a tactic, I know you were working with Erica, and hopefully you guys were able to connect on your TikTok experience, but I see that you're expanding everywhere. So again, Suzie, you've done a phenomenal job. Kudos to you and to the business. Amazing. And it's a pleasure to have you speak here today. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Suzie. Awesome. I'm a big fan, Thanks.
Thanks, Laura.
Thank you.